Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
Good morning, Carly.
Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Sienna.
Lovely for you to finally catch up with us here on what we're not calling Two Blokes Chatting today, but in fact one bloke and one woman chatting. Thanks for joining us. You've got a really interesting story that Rob and I have been chasing you for about 6 months to hear. Tell us what you do down in that neck of the woods that's really interesting.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me today. It's great to finally be here. So I'm passionate about supporting and advocating for migrants and refugees that are living in regional communities. So I have started a project that assists migrants that are currently living in the cities to move to our beautiful region. So we support them in finding employment, housing, and somewhat most importantly is links to the community. So we started a pilot project in Southern Grampians and Glenelg Shire a couple of years ago, which was really successful. And we've built a new partnership with Jesuit Social Services, and we're moving into Moyne Shire, where I'm currently located, this year. So, yeah.
How many people have been resettled by your program?
So in our pilot project, we assisted 10 families to move to the region, and most of those families are from the Great Lakes region in Africa, so have quite a number of children, average of 6 to 8 in each family. So we boosted the population by 50 people over 2 years.
Wow, I've got to say, it's an incredible thing that you're doing there, Carly. I'm just curious, how do you stumble into that? How do you start this whole idea that you've got going?
That's a great question. My background is actually in international aid and development, so I've lived overseas for a number of years, so really interested in this space, and I always have been. When I moved back to the region after being overseas for a number of years, I realised that our rural communities just lack that vibrancy and diversity that I've seen in multicultural cities around the world. And realised that I just needed to create my own opportunities and do something about it. So as a participant of the Leadership Great South Coast program, which is the community leadership program, I came up with this idea and joined partners with a couple of organisations and formed some great relationships with local government who are very keen to support this initiative. So it really has been a whole of community approach, and ensuring that we had a lot of players involved has been really key to success, and it's been amazing the support that we've really received from community as well.
Because I would have thought there would be two stumbling points that jump out at me in terms of moving people from a city. So you've got some people who have moved to Melbourne, let's say, and one would be encouraging them to move 2.5 to 3 hours away from a capital city into somewhere which would be best described as rural. Let's run with that. And then the second part of that would be the folk at the other end, who I would think there would be a certain degree of, not racism, but traditional resistance is probably the best way to put it. How do you overcome those two hurdles?
Yeah, so the families that we've been working with, majority came from rural backgrounds themselves. So a lot of them are from rural areas, overseas. Some, most, like during the pilot, most were refugees, so have lived in refugee camps for up to 15 years. And then the government has essentially moved them when they come to Australia to our capital cities. So that environment is really not what they feel comfortable with. So for the families that we're working with, they're actually really keen to get out to the regions. When we brought them out here for the very first time, many have honestly been in tears because they just can't understand, like it just feels like home for them out here, similar environments. So for them, there's a real keen interest to move, and we'll only work with families that really do have that desire to move to rural areas. And then the other part of the question is the communities. To be honest, over the time that we've been running this, which is nearly 5 years now, We really haven't seen that negativity. I've been completely overwhelmed by the support that our communities have. I think there is a keen interest in people to diversify our populations, and they see it as a real opportunity to boost the populations of rural towns and to encourage economic growth as well, because a lot of the families are quite entrepreneurial as well, so bringing new and exciting experiences to our towns as well.
Yeah, so once you have relocated them, what happens in terms of jobs available for them?
Yeah, so as we're moving into this next stage of the pilot, as I mentioned before, we're working with Jesuit Social Services, and our aim is to make sure that at least one member of each household has a job prior to arrival. So Jesuit Social Services, they do that recruitment piece and support that participant to ensure that they're job ready. In the phase of project that we're working with at the moment is working with the businesses. So we're currently in conversations with the main larger employers in Moyne Shire to find out where their employment gaps are, where the need is, and to ensure they've got that job, because I'm sure we all know is that having a job is really important to ensuring that you're safe and able to support your family. So that's our key, is to make sure that they've got a job before they come, and then we'll support them to find housing and then build those relationships in the community. So we've got a couple initiatives. We match them up with a local buddy, so a local family member that will support them. Got language cafes and tutoring cafes for the students as well, to ensure that they start feeling a part of the community.
Because I would have thought too, I always put boot on the other foot, and if I was plonked into the Great Lakes areas of Africa and I found that there were 50 other people from Geelong or even Australia, I would gravitate towards them. Is there a bit of that going on, or are they genuinely finding relationships with the locals that, it's obviously great to stick together and have common interests and stuff, but is there are they finding themselves isolated as a group, or are they genuinely being integrated in?
Yeah, very good question, Neil. Ideally, we hope that there's someone else in the community that's from their similar background to them, and we sort of keep that in mind when we're placing them, or at least perhaps moving a couple of people at the same time. And our key focus from this project is an intercultural approach, and that idea is to make sure that they're meeting people from different backgrounds as well as the local population. So those initiatives that I mentioned before, that's really key to that, is making sure that they're building relationship with a whole diverse range of people in the community. So a bit of both. I think it's important to have people from their same backgrounds, but also to ensure that they're trying to settle and make sure that they're building relationships throughout the whole community.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm curious, how did COVID play a role in this?
Yeah, so it actually was kind of good timing, because we finished, there's no good timing about COVID.
Yeah, we know what you meant.
But we finished the pilot at the end of 2019, so it was sort of a bit of a turning point for us in the project, and we used 2020 as a time to take those lessons that we learnt from the pilot and put it into a working document, so what we're calling our project model. We engaged an external consultant who was able to write that up for us. So essentially we had that's the space to reflect on those learnings and work out what the key elements are that worked and what we want to take into the next phase. And we're able to attract funding from the Victorian state government to move into this second phase as well. And it really was about working out how the partnership with Jesuit Social Services will work as well. So, it was really good to give us that space, and we were able to support the families that have settled as well. So we had someone located in Hamilton, where most families are, and she was supporting the children with accessing remote learning, which was great to have someone that was dedicated to that, and support the families to support the children in their education.
Excellent.
last year.
Well, Carly, you've obviously done such a good job that our mate Rob Cameron, who's having a listen in, he's listening today as an educational thing. He's learning how to co-host with me, and he's listening. And he said that he would like you to come on and talk to him on one of his Thursday programs as well. He does Thursday front page from 9 till 11 on Thursday morning. So you've won a fan there. We'll organise to get that done. Before we let you go, rumour reaches me that there could be a podcast on its way. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how the timing on that's going to work?
Sure. I have a new initiative that I've been working on as well during COVID. Is a podcast that I'm very soon to release, which is called Me, Mark and a Migrant. So the idea of the podcast is to share the untold stories of migrants living in our regional communities. The podcast will be co-hosted by my father-in-law, Mark, who's a retired farmer living from southwest Victoria, who essentially hasn't met many people from culturally diverse backgrounds. So I'm going to introduce him to people from diverse backgrounds living across the southwest region, and plan on having a bit of fun along the way.
Sounds like a plan. And I don't want to make out like having a grumpy old bloke and a young, talented journalist, because it's working this morning. So I'm sure it'll work out fine. Carly, thanks for joining us from Port Fairy. What a beautiful part of the world you live in.
Thank you, I certainly do. And I'm looking forward to going and enjoying it today on this lovely sunny Saturday. So
thanks for joining us, and all power to you for the great work you're doing, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks very much. Lovely to meet with you both.
Thanks, Carly. Carly Jordan there from down Port Fairy Way, and my goodness me, what a good opportunity it was to chat with her. We've been chasing her for a while, and you can understand why. We are going to have some sponsorship announcements and a song, and we'll come back with the great man Barnsey. You're listening to a bloke and a woman chatting on 94.7 The Pulse.